Good afternoon to friends of Longview, and thank you for joining us. Yes, our topic today is the 4 phases of retirement and how you can squeeze all the juice out of retirement. I hope you'll find it helpful, enjoyable, and maybe even educational. Everyone says you have to get ready to retire financially, and of course you do. But what they don't tell you is that you also have to get ready psychologically. The first baby boomers, those folks born between 1946 and 1965, began to hit retirement age of 65 about 10 years ago in 2011. Today, about 46% of the boomers have reached age 65, and that will continue until about 7 years from now. The last boomer will turn 65 in 2030. It's like a retirement tsunami. So at the same time as all these retirees are retiring, life expectancy continues to lengthen. Many folks today can expect to live up 1/3 of their lives in retirement, quite likely 30 years. So we're living longer than ever before, up to 1/3 of our lives in retirement, quite possibly. And so the question before us is, how do we spend that time productively and meaningfully? And that's what we want to talk about today. By the time that we're finished our brief time together here, you are going to know what the 4 phases of retirement are. If you are retired, you're going to know which phase you're in currently. And if you're not retired, or if you know someone who's not, this can perhaps provide them with a kind of a heads up as to what they can expect when that time comes. So let's get started. Phase 1. I call phase 1 the vacation phase, because that's just what it's like. You do what you want, you get up when you want, go to bed when you want. It's kind of your call here in vacation phase. It's just like it is when you're on vacation. You do what you want. Typically, it lasts for about a year or so, sometimes less, sometimes more, of course. And the big thing is that people tell me that they're busy checking off their bucket list in phase 1. You know, they may have written down a list over the years, or that may just be in their heads, but a list of things that they really want to do when they retire, and now's their chance. They didn't have the time or perhaps the resources when they were working, but now they do, and now they're going to check those lists off. And so phase 1, for most people, it represents their view of an ideal retirement. Relaxing, fun in the sun, vacation, freedom, baby, freedom. That's what they love most about phase 1. But interestingly enough, what happens is that before too long, about a year or so, year to 2, we actually get a bit bored. There's something about it that, you know, too much of a good thing can almost be too much. We find that we miss our routine. And although the routine that we had for years and years we found restrictive, still there's something about us that seems to be genetically wired so that we need a routine, especially over the longer term. And we begin to ask ourselves, is that all there is to retirement? I mean, I thought phase 1 was what it was all about. It was going to be this way for 30 years or so, but it's not. So when we start to ask that question, we are starting to make a move out of phase 1. And we're going forward, and it's going to be a rough ride for a while. There's no doubt that retirement is one of life's top 10 traumas. It's right up there with a new job. It's right up there with moving. It's right up there with divorce. It is one of life's top 10 traumas. There's just no question about that. So we're now heading into phase 2. Phase 2 is a phase when we feel loss and we feel lost. In phase 2, we suffer 5 important, significant, and almost unavoidable losses. And each and every one of them is directly associated with retirement. We lose our structure. We lose our identity. We lose relationships. 4th, we lose a sense of purpose. Again, many people find significant purpose in what it is they do, whatever it might be and wherever it might be. And when that is over, that sense of purpose is taken from them as well. And then finally, a sense of power. Now, we don't see these losses coming. And because we lose them all at the same time, it's like poof, gone. It's traumatic. And it gets worse in phase 2. Because in addition to the 5 significant, almost unavoidable losses, we are at risk for the 3 Ds: depression, decline, physical decline. You get a little creaky. We suffer some mental decline. You know, I was sure I left those keys there and they're not there. And what about those passwords for all those things you have to get into? That can be a challenge. And thirdly, divorce. And do you know what the highest suicide rates are in North America today? Men over 75. It's a very difficult time in phase 2. You see, it's true, before we can experience some of the more positive aspects of phases 3 and 4, you're going to experience fear, uncertainty, and anxiety. You may already have experienced that sort of thing. That's just the way it is. All the research points to it. It's been my experience, and it's certainly been the experience of people that I have interviewed over and over again. But there's hope beyond. Sooner or later, most of us start a rehab program. Some of us say, hey, you know, as I said, I don't want to go on like this. What can I do that's going to make me feel better? And when that happens, that's when we can start to rebuild. And that's when we have moved into phase 3. Phase 3 is the phase of trial and error. You know you're in phase 3 when you start to ask yourself again, what can I do to make my life more meaningful and productive? How can I contribute? What can I do that's going to make me feel good again? But it's important to understand in phase 3 that there can be a lot of false starts. That's why it's called trial and error. Error is the false start part of it. But it's really important that you keep at it in phase 3. Keep trying until something clicks and something moves you forward, because if you don't, there's a really good possibility of slipping back into phase 2. And that is not a happy prospect. Now, not everyone breaks through and gets to phase 4. Some people, a very small number of people that I'm aware of, stay in phase 1. Some people stay in phase 2, unfortunately, and they become part of the statistics that we just quoted. Some people stay in phase 3, God love them, and they just keep at it and at it and at it and keep trying. And some people move among some of those phases. But not everyone gets to phase 4. But what I have to tell you is that those who do are some of the happiest people I have ever known. It is wonderful to see people in phase 4, and I hope that if you're not there now, that you'll make it your intent to get there. But getting to phase 4 requires answering some questions. What's my mission here? What's the purpose? Why am I here? What am I going to do with this next 30 years of my life? How can I squeeze all the juice out of retirement? And here's a hint, something that I have found to be the case over and over and over again. It almost always involves service to others. Almost always involves service to others. Winston Churchill had it figured out. He said, we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. So I want to try to help you by providing some tools that can help you press forward to phase 4 if you decide that that's what you'd like to do. And I hope that will be what you decide you'd like to do. 2 questions. What do you love to do? And what do you do really well? And what I find is that people kind of overlook those things as they move on in age. They don't even think about them very much anymore. And yet almost everybody can identify several things that they love to do and that they do really well. And that's going to be fodder that you can use to help you find out where you really need and want to be in phase 4. Here's the second tool, high points. Identify 5 times in your life when you really felt that you had accomplished something that was significant. And what I'm going to suggest here in tool number 3 is that there are common threads. And that my experience is, although it's often overlooked, is that things we love to do and do really well lead to and have led to success throughout our lives. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to just check your list of both. And I'm going to ask you to, with a pen or a pencil, kind of draw the connection between the two. Things you love to do have led to success. I think you'll be surprised, many people are, that in fact there is a connection there. And that's an important thing to be aware of as we're moving forward. Things you do well and love to do have led to success. That can give us a clue as to where we want to really devote some of our time in phase 4. Here's the fourth tool. And on the screen, you can see that there are 4 circles and that they partially overlap. At the top, there's a heading of what you love. And to the left of that, about 9 o'clock, what you're good at. Those two together, that's your unique ability. Then have a look over at 3 o'clock, what the world needs. The world needs so many things. And this is an opportunity for you to give some thought to this idea of providing service to others. What is something that you can see is needed in your community, in your country, in the world, that you might be able to contribute to and provide service for? And finally, down at 6 o'clock, notice that there's reference to something you can be paid for. Well, providing service to others can be on a volunteer basis, but it doesn't have to be. There's nothing wrong with being paid for providing service for others. So my suggestion is that in that small little spot there in the middle where those circles overlap, I'm going to call that at the confluence of all these others, that's your sweet spot. That's where you feel like you are in the zone when you're doing all of those things. Makes you feel terrific. You're doing what you love. You know you do it well. You're giving back. You're providing service. It's a wonderful place to be. And when you can identify that sweet spot, that thing, that activity, or those activities that you would like to do that fulfill each of those criteria, that's the kind of thing that will help you to discover, if you've not already, what I call your life's purpose. So for me, my sweet spot is that I want to make a positive difference in the lives of others through education. That's what I try to focus as much of my time and efforts onto as I possibly can. Interesting study done by the Harvard Business School. One of the things that stood out for me was the quote that you see here. The unhappiest retirees of all had not gone on to do anything productive beyond pleasing themselves. Something in us makes us want to be of service to others. That's phase 1. It's all about me. And there's a time and a place for that, but it can't extend over a 30-year retirement. A year or so is just fine, but that's not the way to build a successful retirement. You see, I think you'll agree that most of us need to find activities that we find meaningful and that give us a sense of purpose. That we're built that way. That's in almost all of us. So how do you do that kind of thing? Well, maybe you support a charity. Maybe, I know a fellow who delivers prescriptions for the local drugstore to those people who can't get to the drugstore, especially in weather like this. Mentoring students. Maybe you take a student under your wing and help them along. Maybe you're determined to be the very best grandparent that you can be. Maybe you'd like to write your memoirs or write a book. All of these are possibilities, and they're really only determined by you. Here's one of the things I did. I'm involved with a water charity. I went along with a group of folks to Honduras. We were able to repair 7 wells in 5 days, and in doing so, we were able to provide clean drinking water to over 2,200 villagers. It was an awesome experience. And then on Friday mornings, I go from 8 o'clock in the morning until noon to our local hospital, and I'm a member of the welcome team. And our job is, as the name suggests, to welcome people who come into the hospital. In many cases, they are there, under stress, under duress. They don't know where to go, and we approach them, and we're encouraged to not tell them where to go, but to take them where they need to go. So Rick Warren, a well-known author and pastor, has made the point that anytime you use your gifts and abilities to help others, you are fulfilling your calling. It's as simple as that. So to use those strengths, things that you love to do, providing service to others, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So remember, you're not alone in this transition. 10,000 retirees every single day. So you are definitely not alone. But the good news is that we've got more options to consider than ever before, probably, and longer to do it than ever before in recorded human history. So we have this huge opportunity to combine the things that we love to do and the things that we do well to make a difference. And when you do, and you remember back in phase 2, we talked about the 5 significant losses, unavoidable losses. Well, in phase 4, they are all regained and they are enhanced. It's magic to see this happen in phase 4. So my recommendation, my encouragement is don't retire, at least in the traditional sense. What I encourage you to do instead is to rewire. Take the things that you love to do and that you do really well and that have led to success in the past, and you can probably apply them to a need in your community and provide service there and it'll make you feel just terrific. Everyone says you have to get ready to retire financially. Of course you do. But what they don't tell you is you have to get ready psychologically. So I encourage you to enjoy your vacation in phase 1. Be prepared for the losses that will inevitably come in phase 2. Experiment and try as many different options as you can in phase 3, and squeeze all the juice out of retirement in phase 4. Thanks, folks.
So to all of our Longview friends, you know how to stay in touch with us. We consider it kind of a growing family here. And, we look forward to talking with you, getting to know you even better, and helping you squeeze all the juice out of retirement as Riley has, and how he's given us a path to do for ourselves.